Owners meetings going on in the NFL. John Lynch had some words to say, and me and Jason, we're two guys that are very interested in things John Lynch has to say. New Sprint Right Option podcast starting now.
Welcome, everybody.
We are live.
My name is Jason Aponte.
I am Andrew Pasquini.
We're working. That's it. We're working over here. That's it. Let's go Niners.
Let's go Niners. Sprint Right Option podcast. Oh my goodness, we are live. It is a new edition of the Sprint Right Option podcast. I'm Andrew Pasquini, joined as always by Jason Aponte. Jason, it's a beautiful Monday. Baseball season's in full swing, but most importantly, I want to know how you doing on this Monday.
Doing good. And for everybody that's in here, make sure you guys like this video. That really helps us out a ton. And yeah, owners meetings and an important day tomorrow for deadlines and, word salads being offered up by John Lynch. So get your word salads and nothing burgers, guys, if you're hungry.
I love salads, and word salads are my favorite types of salad. They're the kinds I don't have to eat. They don't have any vegetables involved. I just like word salads. And as you said, John Lynch gave us plenty of word salad. He said it was one of those press conferences where he said a lot of words without saying a lot at all. And that's what we're here to talk about. John Lynch, annual NFL owners meetings happening right now. I believe it's somewhere in Florida. I want to say Tampa, but it's not. It's Palm Beach. There we go. Florida is just kind of a cluster to me for Californian. But John Lynch spoke to the media earlier today regarding some pressing topics. Jason, would you be surprised to find out he talked about Brock Purdy today? He did, and he sounds as hopeful as one could be. Maybe not. I don't know on the Brock Purdy, but that's where we're going to start today. The Brock Purdy negotiations, what John Lynch kind of said about it. Let's just get right into it. He was just straight up. He said, quote, "I want to get it done quick just so we can get back to phase one, get after it with our receivers and our team." He said, "I'm not the kind of guy that wants to leave any kind of drama associated with anything." We'll start with that, just kind of individual thing. He's not the kind of guy who wants to have any drama with anything, but here we are, about the fourth offseason in a row. We're talking about contract negotiation drama. So he has done a very good job at that. Now, to his credit, he's gotten more of these contracts signed than he has not. Unfortunately, there's a lot of drama that's drawn out. But I think the most interesting thing is he says he wants to get it done quick just so we can get back for phase one. Phase one of training camp begins in a few weeks. Jason, how optimistic are you that the Brock Purdy deal gets done within the next couple of weeks?
Not optimistic at all. And for somebody to say that they don't like drama, this is literally the hot dog meme from I Think You Should Leave. We're all trying to figure out the guy who did this. Just really funny to me about how it's like, what is it? It's one of my favorite Future memes. They not toxic. You're not toxic. They're toxic. And it's just like, oh, we don't like drama. You sure? I mean, because if not, then why are you doing things you don't like? For the most part, so, but I thought that was pretty funny. No, I don't expect it to be done by that. And that's okay. Also, that's also okay. Doesn't mean that the 49ers need to get it done by then. That is like best case scenario. But as you know, living in 49ers land, it's never best case scenario. It's never perfect world scenario. So yeah, it's fine. I don't think they will, but it's not a big deal.
This quote almost reminds me of being a wrestling fan because a lot of Vince McMahon's WWE, maybe not so much now with Triple H running it, a lot of it is hoping you forget the past for all of the kind of story hole plots. You forget things that happened. And him saying this, like, I just want to get it done quick, not the kind of guy who likes to have drama. It's almost like he's banking on Niner fans to just forget the last 5 off seasons with Aiyuk, with Kittle, with DeForest Buckner, with Debo, all of them. It's like he wants you to forget that those happen, but they exist. And we can't forget that all of it has happened in the past, and none of this has been easy. And it's not even the past. This is already following the same timeline of the previous years, where it's, we want to get something done as soon as possible. And they say that for about 2 weeks. And then we're going to get to April, May and be like, we're nowhere near. Well, we're hoping to get something done by training camp. And it feels like the same playbook that they've used in previous years. I believe they call it let Parag cook or whatever it is. But that's just where we're at. And Jason, you and I aren't very optimistic about it. But John Lynch he said, I don't think it's too optimistic. I understand why Brock wants that. We'd like that very much. So we just got to find the right place for both sides. I would love nothing more for that to be the case. Again, we've seen this kind of negotiation through the media, right? And you're kind of seeing it. We'll talk on Aiyuk here in a minute, but we're seeing it with Aiyuk too, where a couple weeks ago, Rappaport reports that Purdy's looking for that 60 million. Reportedly, everything's reportedly in negotiations. Josh Allen signs his extension, which makes you think that, hey, maybe the number is going to be a little lower. And now we're still at a point where it just does not feel like they're close. They're remotely close. And I don't know where it stands. And I think the Niners kind of prefer it that way because that's how they've done it every year. I think from a player's aspect, the players want to get it done as soon as possible. It's the same thing of like in baseball or any sport really, where you hear players aren't going to negotiate an extension when the season starts because they want to be focused on it. I think Purdy wants to get this done as soon as possible. And obviously he has a number that the Niners might not want to meet. And that's the beauty of negotiations, Jason, that this is what it is at this point. But just to contradict what John Lynch said, I think it's very optimistic to believe that the Brock Purdy situation is going to be resolved in the next few weeks, unless the 49ers take a big step towards Brock Purdy's number, because I'm assuming they're nowhere near since there's been no updates in these past couple of weeks. So you already said you're not as optimistic, but where do you sit on finding the right place for both sides?
I mean, eventually they will. It's just not going to be anytime soon. I mean, there's definitely just going to be times where they both walk away from the table and they're frustrated. It's part of negotiations. And that's when people are going to start coming out with the reports of it being contentious. Look, man, I've seen this shit too many times every single offseason with every single negotiation. So pardon me if I'm not moved or worried, because this is just par for the course. And that's it. This is not going to get done anytime soon. They will absolutely drag this out all the way until training camp, and that's it. I mean, when you make peace with that idea, then it can't frustrate you anymore. And that's just, it's not me. History is the best indicator of predicting the future. So why would I think that all of a sudden this is going to get done, even if it is the most important position on the field? So for me, I don't know why we constantly need to ask these questions to John Lynch so he can give us an answer for something that we already know how this process is going to play itself out. It's going to be fine. This is in the infant stages of negotiation. There's going to be days where they both walk away from the table. It's going to bleed past this OTA part, and it's going to get all the way up to training camp where they're trying to get it done, and then they finally get it done in the last minute. And that's just me going off history. So I'm not moved by any of this because I know how this goes. And there's been players higher up in their position scale for the 49ers, meaning George Kittle's the best tight end in football. So is Fred Warner. And those guys, it took forever. Nick Bosa's a top 1, 2, 3 guy. Why wouldn't this play out the same exact way with Purdy, who's nowhere near that at his position? So it's going to get contentious and it's going to get caught up in the numbers, but I'm not moved, man. I just know what's going to happen. And that's just the bottom line.
And if there's any motivation that like the 49ers should have to get this done is look at the Brandon Aiyuk extension last year and look at the Nick Bosa extension a few years before, where they waited till the last second to get the deal done. And you had Bosa struggle at the start of the season. And 2023 wasn't a very good season for Bosa. Aiyuk, he had his struggles until he tore his ACL last season. Now you're talking about a quarterback. And I don't know about you, Jason. Maybe I don't understand 2025 NFL football. Quarterback's a pretty important position. You would like to think that the Niners would like to get him in as early as possible to work with a potentially brand new receiving core, right? Because we don't know when Aiyuk, well, the Niners try to give us an idea of when Aiyuk's going to be back. We'll talk about that here in a second. But you're going to go into the season with Ricky Pearsall, Jawan Jennings as your new core. And you would like to think that you would want to get as many reps for Brock Purdy with that new core going into the season. But again, it's March. We got so much time before training camp, but history just has not been polite to the 49ers on this. It just has not, plain and simple. And if we get to a point where we're still talking in July about Brock Purdy not having an extension and a potential Brock Purdy holdout, then you really got to start talking about, because Jason, we talked about how this offseason has been very bad for the 49ers, but the kind of saving grace is hey, look at that schedule. That schedule looks real nice, looks real easy. But if you have a quarterback who's coming in a little late to camp and maybe has to start the season off a little rusty, you kind of lose the advantage of that schedule because your quarterback is starting slow. And I think you can get away with offensive end starting off slow, right? You ideally have players around him that make it work. And you ideally can get away with a receiver starting off slow like you saw with Aiyuk last season. I don't know how you can get away with a quarterback holding out and then potentially having a slow start to the season, because unfortunately for the 49ers, I don't think there's room for a slow start this season. It's going to have to be win as many as you can early to prevent any type of in-season collapse or any type of end of season slump. But we're going to be sitting here talking about Brock Purdy's extension until July, and that could potentially lead into a September slow start. And that's just not what the Niners can use right now.
I just think that it's hard to predict that because we don't know how the games are going to be staggered. If the 49ers' tough games are early in the season, then I don't think we can sit there and say, well, they need to get off a hot start. You just kind of are just like, listen, you possibly could lose these games. So I think until we figure that out, it's hard to say. Sure, you'd like to get off to a hot start, but depending on how the games are staggered, I mean, if you get your easy games early on and teams that you're supposed to beat, then I could understand that portion. But if it's all your tough games are early on and they're road games and you could see them maybe losing, I don't know if that is the same thought process I would have, but I think we'd have to figure all that out. Look, bottom line is, again, everything that we want for the 49ers is in this perfect world scenario, in this utopia where things are great and there's never any issues. But that's not, we've got to operate outside of that because it's not going to happen like that. You have to expect that this is going to bleed into training camp. I believe it will. I'm very confident it will. And then from there, we'll take it. It's just, this is exactly what the 49ers do. And it doesn't matter the logic that we bring up in terms of, well, it'd be nice for you to get it done. Yeah, it really would be nice, but that's not what's going to fucking happen. So it's just going to bleed into this whole thing. And then we're going to have the same conversation when it gets to training camp about, timing and how it's going to look. And you'd love for him to get with the reps. And then we'll figure out how it is when the season comes. But there's no reason to believe that the 49ers are going to get this done quickly, in a hurry, and try to get all this going, because they just never do. And they never have. This regime just hasn't done it. And the most frustrating part is they end up caving at the last minute. Just give the money up. If you're going to give the money up, give it up. What are you waiting for? Like, you're already going to pay them. Why do you have to wait until the last minute where you're just like, all right, well, you got us? No, like it's done. Just pay the man and just get it over with. And then they're just like, well, you convinced me. No, that, like, again, this is literally what the par for the course is, and it's annoying. I just don't get it, man. Just give the man his money, and if you're gonna eventually give it to him anyway, because you're not gonna have enough balls to move off of Brock. Let's also keep that a buck as well, too. It's not like you're gonna say, hey, we're not paying you, we're gonna trade you away. So get that out of your mind as well, too, and go ahead and just pay the guy, because you're eventually going to cave and do it. So why wait?
I really like to think now that the last two off seasons, the Bosa and Aiyuk negotiations ended with Lynch physically going, well, you got us. We'll give you what you wanted this whole time. I like picture that now that you've put that into my brain. I'm just going, well, you got us. You won. Like, what are we supposed to do?
You sly devil. You called our bluff. All right.
Yeah, you knew we couldn't go into a season without you, Nick Bosa. We're gonna give you exactly what you asked for 6 months ago, buddy. We got you. I think this the next line here might contradict everything John Lynch said. I think this was the most interesting thing John Lynch said. Brock wants to be with us. We want Brock to be with us. When that's the case, these things typically get done. And does it happen this offseason? I don't know. Hopefully it happens real soon this offseason. So he went from I'm optimistic to getting shit done before phase 1 to, well, does it happen this offseason? I don't know. Hopefully it happens. I don't know, though. So like it's almost like the Mac meme from Always Sunny. John Lynch is playing both sides, so he comes out on top. And to me, that's the most telling quote out of all. Listen, we said this was a word salad. It is. But this was the most telling part of that. This was the crouton of the salad, the thickest, most noticeable part of it. And does it happen this offseason? I don't know. And now I'm not going to say Brock Purdy's the type to hold out into a season. I don't think that's realistic. I think he would play on whatever deal it's going to be if it doesn't get done this offseason. But to have him say, I want to get it done quick just so we get back to phase one, and then just a few lines down be like, and does it happen this offseason? I don't know. And I think that was the most honest John Lynch has ever been as the 49ers general manager. I think that quote right there is most honest because he does not know. And that should be a concern.
Well, he's just laying out the possibilities. I mean, there's only 3 ways this can go. He signs the extension. He doesn't sign the extension. He plays on that. Like, I guess, I don't know. Like, I know that this is a podcast and you're here to hear thoughts about these quotes, but I don't take shit away from any of this because it's so matter of fact and just very obvious. It doesn't take someone with a lot of critical thinking skills to understand where you are right now in this process and all of the ways that this can go. So when John Lynch states one of the range of outcomes, who cares, right? Like, there's nothing in these quotes to learn. There's nothing in these quotes that can alert you one way or the other to anything because there's only a few ways that this can go. So when John Lynch says that, it's not he's saying that that's likely. It is a possibility, but how likely is that possibility? And I don't think it's very high. So all of these quotes and everything, and this winter meeting and all that stuff, you're not going to learn anything from this. No. You're not going to get anything that's going to make you panic. You're not going to get anything that really changes your mind. The only thing that's really going to happen is if someone's digging for something and they want to make a mountain out of a molehill, this is where you'll find it. Yeah. But John Lynch doesn't give anything away. These press conferences, they're boring. They're the same things over and over again that are said. They're matter-of-fact things that you don't have to have sources to confirm. We're in negotiations where, he wants to be here. Great. I didn't need you to tell me. I knew that. So, again, like, these comments are just like, I know you want us to sift through it. I know you want us to find a way to really, like, come up with some grandiose explanation or what's the big galaxy brain portion of it. But I have a hard time because everything is so matter of fact. And when you couple it with their propensity to never get these things done early on, it almost just lends you to understand that this is where it's going, and it never probably was going to go any way but this way. So maybe they'll do the funniest thing and surprise us and get it done early. But are you going to bet on that? I'm not.
Yeah, no, and I like, that's the funny thing, Jason, is like, I did not like, there's no learning in this. You said that, right? 100%. There is no learning in, and does it happen this offseason? I don't know, because that's where we've been at this entire time. I just find it very interesting that Lynch said it out loud, because it contradicts the two previous quotes we just went over, where it's, hey, we want to get it done as soon as possible. But as soon as possible might not be this season. So that to me is it's an interesting little tidbit. The last little quote I have on the Purdy, I think we're going to get the deal done. That's just what I believe. So we'll leave it at that. And I mean, nothing to learn there, Jason. I would like to believe that the general manager of a football team likes to think that he's going to get it done with the quarterback that kind of saved this organization's ass a couple years ago. So I would like to believe that he would. I think it would be, if he said, I don't think we're going to get a deal done, we would have led with it, and that's all we're talking about. Mm-hmm. But again, the messaging, again, it's the same messaging we've gotten the last 4 or 5 off seasons with any type of negotiation. I just thought it was very telling that he said doesn't happen this off season. I don't know, because they haven't really shown that in any of their wording until Lynch said it today.
I would love for John Lynch to be like all the way up front. I'd be like, look, I'm not going to hold you guys. I don't think we're getting this one done at all. And I know that that's not something that you would say, but that sort of honesty would be refreshing. It would be a breath of fresh air. But yeah, they're not going to say anything like that. And I think, again, he said the same thing at the combine about, this is the way that it could go. We're hopeful it could not have, because you do have the option of him being under contract as well, too. Yeah. And you have the franchise tag in your back pocket, even though the 49ers have only used the franchise tag under John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan once. Do you know which player that was that they used the franchise tag on? Andrew Pasquini.
Oh my God.
You're going to love this answer.
They haven't used it in a few years. I know that. Who was it?
Robbie Gould.
Oh my God, you're right. Holy shit.
So this team doesn't use the franchise tag at all, unless it's about bringing back a kicker, which, great job, guys. Like, you're really, 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 really shrewd maneuvering.
Hey, Jim Harbaugh said don't give up on Jake Moody, though.
Yeah, I don't care. I'm giving up on him. He's out. But here's what's funny is with all of this like in their back pocket, that's what they're going to kind of lean on in terms of like, hey, if it doesn't get done this offseason, you're still on the contract. What you going to do? You're not going to be able to sit out, because if you do sit out, then you didn't accrue another year. You're right back where you started the next year. I don't think you're that type of person. So this is where it's going to get contentious, because the 49ers have in their back pocket, what you going to do? And if you don't want to play, that's fine, because you don't accrue a year. You're still under the same contract, and we'll roll with Mac and pump up his value as well too, and just make things, So again, they have all that in their back pocket. They're not going to allow it to get there or anything like that, I don't think. But that's why they're speaking the way that they are in terms of like, hey, if it gets done this offseason, we'd like to, but if not, like that's why, because you have all these other options.
Before we move to Aiyuk, let's just go over some comments here. Gojira, best news, no extension to make Purdy play on his 4th year. He was trending down and has to prove he deserves what he's asking. I don't know if he's trending down necessarily. I think it's hard to judge off of last season with all the injuries, that if he's truly trending down, I think the better word to use it is he showed last year he needs a perfect situation to be as good as he can be. And I think that within itself is a concern. I don't think it's fair to say he's trending down necessarily. Got another one here. Mike G, exactly. The Niners pay up anyway, so why wait? More to your point, Jason, like I agree, like, because that's how all these negotiations have gone. It's never been like they found a happy medium. It was the Niners just met the contract that they were requesting months ago. So that one, I agree. Paul agrees with me here. His entire offense was injured, so no surprise he fell back a bit. No running game. Pass catchers were inconsistent. O-line beat up. Well, we'll talk about that O-line that was beat up last year. We'll talk about that here in a second, because John Lynch talked about them. So there it is on Purdy. Just a few comments that we got. We'll move on to Brandon Aiyuk. Brandon Aiyuk obviously has been a hot topic of the offseason. For the last 2 off seasons, the Niners kind of teasing they might move him. They got about 6 hours to move him before guaranteeing him a boatload of money. Doesn't
4
sound like
hours
that's gonna
on the East Coast.
Is it? Are we going to get into the semantics of is it midnight East Coast or midnight West Coast?
I think the NFL runs on Eastern time,
yes.
so it would be 3.5 hours. Yeah, they better figure it out. Yeah, Cleveland Browns. You better pony up Myles Garrett and the number 3 pick. What the hell? What are you waiting for?
But the first thing we got on Brandon Aiyuk, because it's been the topic of conversation, the biggest was the extension last offseason. Lynch said, quote, "There are no regrets." There we go. Can say the word. "We love Brandon Aiyuk as a football player. We did when we drafted him. We're excited to move forward with him." Again, kind of contradicts the past couple of days. And really what I wanted to dive into before this Lynch conversation, kind of the weekend with Aiyuk and how desperate the 49ers seem to move him, because, the big question with Aiyuk was how long is his injury and that potentially messing up a trade? And conveniently, Jason, on Thursday or Friday, a report comes out that he's probably going to miss, give or take, half the season. So that question gets answered. And then Schefter threw out a random tweet. I think it was Saturday, maybe yesterday. My days get mixed up, Jason. That, hey, by the way, the Niners have a lot of money they owe Brandon Aiyuk if he's on the roster. So they were very motivated to make a trade before that roster bonus kicks in, if you didn't know. All that told me is the Niners tried really, really hard this weekend to trade Brandon Aiyuk. Because I just don't think the timing is coincidental, that the conversation was, well, no team wants to really part ways with any draft stock because they don't know when Brandon Ayuk's coming back from his plethora of knee injuries. But coincidentally, it came out that, hey, he might just miss half the season. So I really think the Niners tried really, really hard this weekend to try and get something to happen.
Andrew, it's almost like conventional wisdom won here. If you're a team looking to trade for Brandon Aiyuk, you're rolling the dice on his recovery.
Mhm.
You're rolling the dice by giving away draft capital. And how can you confidently say that you believe that Brandon Aiyuk is going to return to form following an ACL, MCL,
Mhm.
and meniscus tear? You can be optimistic,
Mhm.
but optimism and certainty don't go hand in hand when you're giving up valuable draft capital on top of the fact that you have to pay this man his money. I never understood why people just got away from that portion of it when it had to be the crux of the reason that anybody would be hesitant to try to trade anything for Brandon Aiyuk.
Mhm.
And again, this moment, we're a few hours away from Brandon Aiyuk getting his money. This moment is your turning point for the 49ers. You pay this man his money and you lean into the idea that everything's going to be fine with his recovery. And you know what? Your wide receiver room looks a lot more potent now with whenever Brandon Aiyuk returns, Ricky Pearsall, Jawan Jennings, and I'm certain the 49ers are going to draft a wide receiver or two with one of their 11 picks.
Mhm.
So this part of it, again, it's you don't need to be Adam Schefter to put together. If you're a team interested in trading for Brandon Aiyuk, how can you be certain of anything other than you'd be giving up draft capital for a receiver that you hope will return to form?
Yeah.
Hope in one hand and crap in the other is what my father used to say. See which one gets filled up faster. If you can't certainly say that you know for a fact that he's going to bounce back, then you can't send any draft capital and you can't pay him that money either way. And we got an update about that as well too, where hey, we don't have a timetable, everything looks good, we're optimistic, but that's why teams aren't going to fork over the draft capital the 49ers want, because how can they be confident that he is going to return to form from that knee injury?
Yeah, and I think if anything too, like I don't know if you saw what the Browns owner came out and said today that he openly was like, "Yeah, we fucked up the Deshaun Watson situation." I didn't take it as a Niner thing, but I think that was their way of saying we're out on IU because they don't want to take another risk like that. So I mean, I don't see him being traded. I didn't catch this. This is a great catch by Rob D on this quote, by the way. As a football player, as a person, he's a dick. I don't know if that was implied. Very funny that John Lynch specified we love Brandon Aiyuk as a football player. Could have just said we love Brandon Aiyuk in general. But he kind of add that as a football player. So good catch there, Rob D. Because that I didn't think about that, but that's a very interesting kind of way to catch that. That's interesting that he had to add the as a football player. Jason, we talked about the injury progress. John Lynch also talked about it. On his injury progress. He did very well. We're pleased with Brandon's progress. He's been working hard and got good reviews from the doctor. That was a key maker or key marker, as I mentioned it would be. He did well. Again, I don't know if there's any value in John Lynch coming out and saying like, hey, he's behind on rehab. I don't think there's any value of saying that in March, especially. Like they might say that in August once we're actually getting closer to game time and then seeing where he's at. Really kind of like a lot of things, nothing there. Just something to throw out that they like his progress. But again, there's no reason to say otherwise in March.
Yeah. Again, this was like kind of the way that I baked Brandon Ayuk's value in 2025. That's why it was so shocking to see people say mid-season, what are you talking about? Well, he had this devastating knee injury in week 8. Want him to miraculously turn around in week 1 and be ready? I'm no doctor, but you had to wait 6 weeks for the swelling to go down before the surgery, and that happened in week 8. 1 full calendar year would be week 8, right?
Yeah.
And for everyone that's going to compare the Stephon Diggs thing, Stephon Diggs clean tore his ACL. That's it. Not ACL, MCL, and meniscus, right? So, yes, that's surprising that Stephon Diggs, especially at his age, might be on target for week 1. But if you're going on a full calendar year based on this devastating knee injury, why would anybody be shocked if he missed half the games or I'll tell you this, he's not going to be ready for week 1. So I think that's the easiest way to look at it. I can't surmise or try to predict how long he's going to be on the shelf because, again, I'm not a doctor. But there was no way that he's going to be ready for week 1. So I think that just when you're comparing the two situations, you can't because they're two different things and two different injuries. And given the timeline, especially when you had to wait because the knee injury was so devastating, you had to wait 6 weeks before you could even do the repair for the surgery and then go from there. Hey, if Brandon Aiyuk has got Wolverine's healing factor, cool. But if we're operating under normal circumstances and with how human bodies respond, even at his age, I think it's pretty fair to assume that he's going to miss a few games at the very least.
Yeah, and I think too with the idea of him coming back early, and I fell into this trap a little bit as well, as you see that torn ACL, and you go, hey, it's the NFL. And we talked to Dr. Narav Pandya last year about torn ACLs and how quick people come back from them nowadays compared to what it used to be. But it's not just the ACL in Aiyuk's case. It's the PCL, it's the MCL, it's all the CLs. It's the Champions League.
I don't think he tore the PCL though. I gotta walk that one back. I think it was ACL, MCL, and just meniscus. So shout out to the people that were pointing that out.
So meniscus is the one I forgot.
Mm-hmm.
But so it is much deeper than just an ACL. So I think people see that torn ACL and be like, okay, well, that's a relatively, it's not quick, but it's a quicker injury than it used to be. But it's more than the ACL. So that's the issue. And then the last quote on Brandon Aiyuk, and this to me is probably the most point of conversation here on his 2025 status. We've always been interested in Brandon being a part of the Niners. We made that decision when we signed him. It's good to hear that he's tracking well with his progress. He's working hard, really hard to do so. And I fully expect Brandon Aiyuk will be a part of us moving forward. Nothing really surprising there necessarily, especially the fully expect Brandon Aiyuk will be a part of us moving forward, mainly because we know about the $22 million kicker that kicks in about 3.5 hours here, Jason. But we've always been interested in Brandon being a part of the Niners. I have an article, Mike Silver wrote it about a month ago, that led with Kyle Shanahan having to sprint down the hallway to prevent a potential trade with the Steelers being finalized. That doesn't sound like we've always been interested in Brandon being a part of the Niners. This entire offseason, it's been trade negotiations, trade rumors. As I said, over the weekend, the coincidentally report came out that Brandon Aiyuk might be ready at midseason. So if you want him, there's the timeline. I refuse the notion that they've always been interested in Brandon Aiyuk being a part of the Niners because they tried so hard to trade last offseason. They've tried medium hard this offseason to try and trade him. And the only reason they're not trading him because there's a kicker involved in it. And that's just what it is. That's what reality is. I don't believe for a second they want Brandon Aiyuk on this roster at this moment. He's just saying it because he knows that there's a contract kicker coming in and he's going to have to be a part of it. I think if John Lynch had his way, Aiyuk would have been traded last offseason. I don't think I refuse to believe that John Lynch can say we've always wanted him when it seems like they've tried very hard at every turn to get rid of him until he signed that extension at a price that, hey, it was the price Aiyuk wanted the whole time. So that's my only point of contention I have on this. I just don't necessarily agree with the thought that they've always been interested in Aiyuk being a Niner.
Yeah, that's complete bullshit. And the whole idea of no regrets, that's ridiculous. Like, that's ridiculous because nothing about the way that you've maneuvered in this offseason at the combine. Yeah, we're listening to calls on Brandon Aiyuk. Obviously, the Mike Silver article has legs because of them getting ready to cut their losses with Brandon Aiyuk and Kyle Shanahan literally getting cold feet before week 1 and just running in there and stopping that. Yeah, that's bullshit. You absolutely have regrets. And the one thing that the 49ers lose more than Super Bowls are negotiations. Sorry, guys. I don't even know where that came from. But it's just
it's a bar. It's a bar. You're not wrong.
They always want to win the deal, but you end up caving and giving every single player exactly what they want. You haven't won a deal. You haven't won a contract in this entire time. The only one that you won was when you paid Dre Greenlaw, and then you tried to double back and Dre Greenlaw still left. But the idea that you want to win these negotiations, you never win any of them. You haven't won any of them. Trent Williams says, I'm leaving. You double up and you bring him the money. Christian McCaffrey says, I'm holding out. You double up and you bring him the money. The same thing. So I don't understand this part of it. Of course you regret it. And I don't know why. I mean, obviously you're not going to say that you don't regret it, but you've done everything to the contrary of what you're saying right now to prove that you are, and you do regret it. And if you didn't regret it, you wouldn't have been looking to offload this contract furiously before April 1st. That doesn't sound to me like a team that's just like, hey, we got our guy and we're, and we're rolling with him. Like, again, that's bullshit. Like, it's just complete bullshit. So don't piss on my leg and tell me it's raining. Like, you're lying. Like, that's an outright lie. You've done everything to the contrary as opposed to saying that. So yeah, I don't know what he's talking about there.
And just we talked about it last week too, Jason. But like, there's a world that exists where Aiyuk comes back, he looks relatively what he was before the knee injury, and we're just here again next offseason with trade rumors of like, hey, look how good he was. Take his contract. Like, so I refuse to believe that they're happy with Sedge, and I refuse to believe that they want him on this team. It's just Shanahan, pushed for it. He got it, and they're stuck with it. I think it's not a bad situation to be in. I've never wavered on my support for Brandon Aiyuk, the player he is. I think I would rather have a player like Brandon Aiyuk than not have a player like Brandon Aiyuk. I just refuse to believe that John Lynch is sitting here saying, yeah, we want him the whole time, when literally my life for the last year and a half has been swamped by Brandon Aiyuk trade rumors. So that's just my thing. I have just an issue with that. But again, he's not going to come out and say, yeah, we don't want him, but we're stuck with him. So like, again, I can't get mad at general manager speak. It's just, it is what it is. Jason, do we want to move on to the offensive line, or do we want to move on to Kyle Juszczyk?
Either way, but this is a great time, guys. If you're here, just make sure you give a thumbs up. That helps us up a lot. A like is really the best way to help us grow as a channel. Thank you, guys. And yeah, you choose from here, buddy. But I you know what? I'm gonna choose. I want offensive line because I love this discussion and I love what was said.
Let's do the offensive line. I'm just going to read his whole quote here, and we'll dissect it. I won't go part by part, so give me a second. We'll try to improve our offensive line through the draft, but there are a lot of good pieces there already. We like our right tackle. We like our center. Left guard, we have some candidates in-house right now, but will we look to add in the draft? Certainly. Yeah, man, I don't disagree with anything he said. Listen, I know Niners Twitter doesn't like Jake Brendel. I know they don't like Colt Kivitz. I'm more prone to trying to replace Brendel than McKivitz at this point. But if you are the 49ers and this front office and you're sitting here, I think they got rid of their worst player on the offensive line in Aaron Banks. I think he was not good last year. I know Brendel wasn't very good, but to me, like, and this might sound contradictory to what Kyle Shanahan believes. Center, like, I feel like that is such a you could figure it out position, where the guards and the tackles, like you need solid there. And I felt like Aaron Banks wasn't very good last season. I think what they can do is Ben Barch or Spencer Burford. They'll be fine there. But you have to look at this realistically with this offensive line. This offensive line was good enough 2 years ago to help lead number one offense in the NFL, to help lead this team to a Super Bowl. And I know we'll talk about the one play at the goal line in overtime against the Chiefs about why you need your offensive line to be better, whatever. We could have that discussion for another time. I don't blame the Niners for sitting here saying that their offensive line is fine, because their offensive line is fine. Now, do they need help in the draft? Absolutely. I don't think you can, I think you do need to find, if not a replacement for Banks, if you feel like you have it in Barch or Burford, you have to find somebody to replace Barch or Burford. You're going to have to find somebody to replace the idea of John Feliciano. I know he tweeted more than he played this season, but you're going to have to figure out kind of his role as well. So there are pieces you're going to have to figure out within this offensive line. But in terms of your starting 5 offensive linemen, I think they are on this roster at this moment, and that's what John Lynch is trying to tell you.
Yeah, if you listen to that quote, I guess the worst news is that for the most part, it sounds like Jake Brendel is going to be the center. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't suspect that the 49ers would draft a center or go with, I mean, maybe Matt Hennessy kicks his ass and can't. We don't know. Hopefully, that might be a best case scenario. But I do kind of want to push back on the idea about the 49ers offensive line. And they're an average unit. And if you ask certain people, you would think that they were bottom 5. Yes. And they're far from that. They are far from that. Like, that is crazy to me. And that's the thing is, yes, they'll still improve, But the idea that the 49ers offensive line is like this bottom 5 unit, their defense was worse than their offensive line this season. Hands down. Like, no questions asked. So when you look at the way at left guard, obviously what you were saying about Aaron Banks is true, but everybody who replaced Aaron Banks looked better than him. And then the value you're getting from Colton McKivitz, who's much closer to the level of play that Mike McGlinchey gave, but for 1/15 of the price, right? And when you're making $2 million as a starting offensive tackle, an average tackle, that's bang for your buck right there, right? So this line, this idea that the narrative has gotten so far about the 49ers offensive line being the bottom 5, I implore you to watch other teams and watch how poor their offensive line is, because if you compare the 49ers offensive line to the real bottom 5 offensive line units, they'll literally look like the difference between the Philadelphia Eagles and certain teams. Like, that's
pick
how
any
bad.
Chicago Bears game yesterday or last season.
Right. And you know, and one of their best guards, he left as well too, Tevin Jenkins, but they addressed it and they upgraded everything else as well too. Yeah, it's just, I think because there's these moments of frustration where, you know, you watch Jake Brendel watch a guy run right past them, or, you know, you have these, remember, offensive line play is tied to the quarterback and vice versa, meaning offensive linemen can't block for 4 seconds, 5 seconds. You got to get the ball out. And if you don't get the ball out, sometimes sacks are a quarterback stat as well too. That's why it's important to dig into the tape and watch, because if you're starting to look at just numbers and pressures allowed and this and that, that can really throw you off, because just say, hey, he only allowed 3 pressures and 1 sack. He didn't allow the pressure. The quarterback might have allowed the pressure. And that's why you need the proper context of all that. So yeah, I'm fine.
I think like, I hate to kick this back, but like it's the Mike McGlinchey conversation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of Niner fans hated Mike McGlinchey because he wasn't great, but I think you lose sight of what a average starting quality offensive lineman looks like, right? And that's all you could really ask for is a starting quality offensive lineman.
Mm-hmm.
You don't, like, I know everybody wants a Trent Williams, but there's only one Trent Williams. There's only one Tristan Wirfs. There's only one Penei Sewell. Majority of the league, like, look at the Chiefs. The Eagles have a good offensive line, so I can't say that. But look at the Chiefs. They're just all starting quality offensive linemen to some fault, but it's good enough to get them to Super Bowls, right? So that's my thing with the Niners offensive line. Yes, it absolutely could better, but it's like a bullpen in Major League Baseball, right? It's almost year to year. And everybody wishes they had a better bullpen. There's no team in Major League Baseball that says we have a perfect bullpen. Maybe with the offensive line, it's a little different. I think there's a few teams out there like the Eagles a couple years ago who probably sat and said, yes, we indeed have a perfect offensive line, to a point where they can run a play time after time after time and get a guaranteed 3 yards every time they do it. NFL wants to ban it because the NFL's soft nowadays. But I just, the idea of finding a perfect offensive line is just not realistic. You just want 5 starter quality players. Is Colton McKivitz a starting quality right tackle? Maybe, but I think he's closer to a starting quality tackle than he is. And that's my thing with the offensive line. Yes, it could be better. Absolutely could be better, but it's fine. It's average, and average is a hell of a lot better than bad. And that's where the Niners sit.
I think all of like 27 teams wish that their lines could be better.
Mm-hmm.
Every single team is looking for that. And that's why you see the premium of what these guys are getting paid. Mike McGlinchey walks and gets paid because he's a starting right tackle. Aaron Banks leaves and he gets paid because he's a starting left guard. Not because people think he's great, but because there's such a premium on everything in terms of linemen, and people are trying to scramble that anyone who is starting level capable is going to get a bag and overpaid, right? Also, when you consider the 49ers offensive scheme with the offensive line, then it works. This isn't a drop back heavy 7-step drop. You need to have long routes develop down the field. This is very much a get the ball out quickly, timing sort of offense. These guys are not going to have to go into like this deep drop back offensive game. That's just not how the 49ers run their offense. Everything is very much quickly get the ball out to mitigate the pass rush, to mitigate the risk that you have with your offensive lineman being there. So when you consider that in that fashion as well, too, the style of play with the offensive line absolutely fits. Now, everybody wants to improve. I don't want Jake Brendel starting at center. I think that they can do a hell of a lot better because he was ranked 35th out of 32. I don't know what you like. There's 32 NFL teams, and somehow you're under the 32nd, like in many metrics. I get that. But in terms of the way this offensive line goes, everyone wants studs, but everything that they do kind of puts the onus on the offense operating and covering up those losses on the offensive line or the deficiencies on the offensive line. That's why if you look at Colton McKivitt's numbers, you can say, hey, he had a good year. Yeah, you're getting the ball out quickly. You're not allowing him to be there, blocking the entire time. Now, there's nothing you can do even when you have a quick passing game when Jake Brendel just lets a guy through and like there's nothing to, there's no way to mitigate that. But when you're talking about what the 49ers need, they just need guys to be able to hold their blocks for 2 seconds. Now, if you can't do that, then it's a bigger problem. But considering the scheme and the offensive line and what they ask, I think it's a little bit overblown about the 49ers offensive line's struggles. And by the way, Super Bowl, Spencer Burford shouldn't have been on the field in that moment. It still should have been Feliciano. I don't know if Feliciano and McKivitz have that same sort of mishap or miscommunication if, that didn't happen as well, too. So, when you consider a guy coming on the field in the biggest game because John Feliciano got hurt, and then he makes a mistake with miscommunication, can we blame the offensive line as a whole or just a guy who wasn't getting many reps and he had a miscommunication and it just happened to be in one of the biggest moments of the game? So I think everything deserves its context. I think the scheme, the quarterback play, everything, it all deserves to be. And, guys got to get open too. That helps. But, it is what it is. The 49ers, they're not going to go up high in the draft probably for an offensive lineman. And after Dominic Puni, why wouldn't they try to circle back into that same sort of thought process and find a guy in that group that can be a starter for them too?
Yeah, that was, if there's a takeaway from this quote, I think we could rule out, unless like Membu falls to 11. I don't think offensive line's happening at 11, even if Will Campbell's there, because nobody seems to know what Will Campbell's arm length is. He's got that Go Gadget extendo arms going on. I don't know what's going on there, but I think if anything, this quote tells you the Niners aren't looking offensive line at 11. And everybody's saying, Brendel's not great. Yes, I think the most replaceable player on this offensive line is Jake Brendel. I think everybody else is fine. I know that's hot take for Colton McKivitz, but again, just is what is. It's the reality of the NFL. Let's get to the Kyle Juszczyk quote, and shout out Grant Cohn for asking this question. Go to SI, go read that because he shares his thoughts on this quote. Grant Cohn asked John Lynch, can you explain the financials of Kyle Juszczyk, letting him go, taking a dead cap hit, and then bring him back? Was it a win? Is it kind of a push? This is a little bit of a lengthy response. I'll do my best. I think it's a win because we have a really good football player who's at the core of our leadership in our team. Was a captain last year and has a chance to make that 10-year wall. That would be really cool. We tried to show him the respect that he deserved to go see what the market was, and that at the end, we found a way to make it work. When I come around these things and I'm around a smart football team, I don't think it's any secret that people have a high respect and regard for Kyle Shanahan's offensive acumen and scheme. And at the forefront of that is the way we use Juszczyk and our fullback. It presents issues and challenges to our opponents. He takes such great care of himself, and although he's older, not much has changed with him. For him to be able to see what was out there and us to be able to find ultimately a contract solution that was out for him and us, that's pretty cool. We're happy to have him back. We got him back, and we've done away with having to deal with this next year. I think Kyle will have 2 good years with us, and we'll see where that goes from there. We're filed up to have the Juszczyks, not just Kyle, but Kristen, back with the Niners. I think there's 2 ways to look at it. I'll start with the on-field situation, the on-field stuff. I think if it was 2021, I would agree. Like, Kyle Juszczyk's super important to this offense. I feel like that impact has kind of lessened, maybe coincidentally, with Christian McCaffrey joining the team. And it wasn't necessarily you need everything to work with this offensive line to get good yardage for these average to above average running backs the Niners kept churning out there, and Kyle Juszczyk played an important role in helping that. But then when you get a guy like Christian McCaffrey, I'm pro fullback. I just don't think it matters who your fullback is when you have a guy like Christian McCaffrey. He'll make things work himself. So I think the whole situation is just very weird. I do understand the idea of letting him go out and see what there is, but it's just I'm still confused by that whole process that happened of releasing him, having the whole goodbye thing too, and then bringing him back and being like, well, yeah, he's an important piece in our offense. It's like, okay, well, if he was so important, why are you letting him go look elsewhere? And that's the disconnect to me, at least.
My conspiracy theory is that they never thought that he was going to come back and that he was going to bowl for Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm. The problem is that Pittsburgh offered more, and then he said, oh, I'll take less to stay, but you don't have to agree to that. You know, like I felt like they were telling him, we want you to sign somewhere else by us giving you this deal. And they thought he would take the money. He weighed his options to go to Pittsburgh, realized that he didn't want to locate there because right now his wife is a huge brand right now. Obviously, she's working with the NFL, so she doesn't want to leave Cali or anything like that as well, too. The problem is that when he came back and said, you know what, I turned down their money, I'll take yours, the 49ers were absolutely surprised because they thought he was going to leave, but you didn't have to agree. Like, you didn't have to say, hey, well, you are going to take a little bit of money. All right, well, then here, take. You could just say, you know what? Nah, go back to Pittsburgh. Like, you know, like go. Yeah. But it is what it is. I can't really get into like what I thought happened. That's really just my conspiracy theory is they were fine letting him walk because they thought somebody else was going to pay him more. The problem is that when he comes back and says he's going to take less, you don't have to agree to that. Like, that's clearly something. But it does feel like that placated some people in the locker room that are friends with him, and you guys are going to make your jokes about the Cabo clique and, you know, who it is and everything as well, too. So, yeah, I don't know. I feel like you could have just let him go to Pittsburgh and just get out.
Yeah, the other side I have of it, especially with this last little mentioning the wife, Kristen, this was like a panda hat signing. That's what it is. And to those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, the Giants, the San Francisco Giants, they had Pablo Sandoval. He would sell those panda hats, you know, and Brandon Belt had the giraffe hats. And, you know, whether you thought they were good players or not, that, you know, Pablo Sandoval's a great player. But it was marketability, right? And I mentioned it with the Joey Bosa kind of interest with bringing the Bosa brothers together. And it felt like a move that it would have its benefits on the field, but it would really be about the marketing of like, hey, we have both Bosa brothers, because I think the Niners are preparing for this season to not be great. And him specifically.
Oh, you're muted, I think.
We're fired up that him swinging and mentioning we have both the Juszczyks back now makes this feel like it's a marketing move almost of like, hey, she gets eyes on the Niners product outside of the team. And there's nothing wrong. Like, this is not an anti-Kristen Juszczyk take. This is the reality of the situation. She gets a lot of eyes on the Niners because of the product she puts out there. And that's great. I love the product she puts out there. And just for John Lynch to say it out loud, and I know it is a family and everybody knows each other, it just feels like this is more of a marketing move than anything else, and especially with him mentioning Kristen Juszczyk. So that's my take. It's a panda hat signing of like, hey, the Niners are 3-8, you know, going into week 12, but Kristen Juszczyk, she's got millions more followers and eyes are on the Niners now because of her. That's my concern with it. Football stuff, that's cool. And again, very cool that he's coming back as a good Niner. He's a player that I think the Niners are better off having than not. I know the position might not be as important as it once used to be, but for him to mention that is just weird to me. That's all.
Yeah, and yeah, I agree. It's more about, you know, the brand itself. You know, Christian Juszczyk is now in bed with the NFL, and you know that's that sort of thing. But again, you know, it is a little bit of, you know, he is beloved in that locker room, and there is an idea of optics, and we're gonna have a guy who's gonna be here for 10 years, and you know, but the problem is this gonna help the offense evolve? And we saw this season the teams that employ fullbacks, not you, Baltimore Ravens, but Miami, the 49ers, right? Like all of the Kyle Shanahan adjacent offenses, they struggled this year. The teams that didn't were the Sean McVay ones, Kevin O'Connell, Sean McVay. Like they're moving things forward. Same thing, Johnson, from Detroit. So I'm a little bit nervous less about like what the strategy is with the marketing, and more that this is going to signal the 49ers not evolving the offense, not putting more wide receivers on the field, maybe not being a little bit more creative in the pass game because of whatever reason, you think you have an advantage with Kyle Juszczyk. I think it was important for a while, but I do think that this season was going to be really important to show some sort of evolution and growth. And I don't know how you do that when you're still one of the few teams that are going to be employing a fullback and you use him in a way that pretty much everybody knows what's going on when he's on the field, pretty much.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting move, and then again, we'll see how it plays out. That whole situation was so weird, Jason. I don't think there's a right or a wrong way to kind of dissect it. It's just weird. So there's everything John Lynch said. I think it again, a lot of nothing, but some pieces to kind of take. Nothing to take too seriously. We're about an hour, so we're wrapping up here, Jason. Great time to remind people, if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, please do. A lot of great content out there. Dare I say, Elite 8 content with State of the Franchise, Brad Graham, Jason Aponte, Steph Sanders, obviously. The whole Aponte YouTube channel, except for me, in the Elite 8, Stats, Aponte, Brad, Steph. So great time.
Steph's out. No, Steph lost to Croc.
Steph lost to Croc. I thought I read it wrong. Well, damn, I don't know how to read brackets, I guess. So Steph lost to Croc. It's okay. She got into the Sweet 16. More to add, more than I could do. So that's okay. So great time to subscribe to.
You're muted again.
I have 2 non-49er topics I'd like to touch on just really quick before we get out of here, if that's okay with you. I don't know how I never heard of Little Brother before you told me about them last week. The Listening, phenomenal album. Holy shit. Jason, you know me, I just like albums that I could just kind of do this little thing to. And that was the entire album. It was chef's kiss, perfection. I loved it. Great recommendation. I don't know how I've never heard of Little Brother before last week.
You're welcome, man. And
yes,
as a hip hop head, I think it's important to really love all the subgenres. And that's the part where people lose me sometimes, right? Oh, I can't listen to Travis Scott because I love boom bap. But I love boom bap. I love Travis Scott. I love Little Brother. I love A$AP Rocky. I love Playboy. I like Playboy Cardi's music. The idea of like, I can't listen to it. There's so many good subgenres of hip hop. Why would you put yourself in a position where you can only listen to one? So for me, Little Brother absolutely falls into the boom bap portion, and shout out to them, man. North Carolina, Little Brother is Ninth Wonder, Fonte, and Big Pooh, and that's one of my favorite albums of all time. That is an album that is just turned 20, or like 20 something now, and it still goes hard to this day. I literally listened to it the other day straight through, and I love it. So yeah, I knew you'd enjoy it. Just the funky vibes and everything, and the skits and everything. It's kind of closer to like what you like about the Gorillaz, like that's kind of like what I was thinking.
Allegedly has a new album coming out this year, Gorillaz, by the way, just throwing that out there. So thank you for that. Do you have another before I move on to the next one? You got anything off the top of your head? You could text me something else if you need to, if you got nothing off the top of your head.
If we're talking about hip hop albums, no, I need to dig in a little bit more. I want to make sure I don't want to just give you anything.
That's totally fine. I appreciate that, Jason. The real topic I wanted to get to, and I hear him saying Wolves play West Ham tomorrow. Yeah, man. I guess like as long as they don't get relegated, we're good. I got my Matthias Cunha jersey on, which feels like a mistake right now because he doesn't want to sound like. But Jason, I really just wanted to get through the John Lynch stuff and all that stuff to really just get to this. Those Yankee bats, pretty girthy, aren't they, Jason Aponte? Huh?
Yeah, you better ban them all across the league because Ellie O'Neill Ellie De La Cruz just hit a home run with it. So yeah, oh my God, break up the Yankees.
It's so funny because if the Royals were the one to come up with this, nobody would mind. Nobody would
Well,
care.
and to be fair, the Milwaukee Brewers just got absolutely smashed into oblivion, pause. And then today, they faced the Kansas City Royals and gave up 12 more runs.
Yeah.
So is it the Yankees or do the Brewers just stink? It could be both.
Well, it's really funny too, because like a lot of people were like, Judge, oh my God. It's like, yeah, dude, Aaron Judge was not hitting home runs at all before the
And he doesn't use the bat. He doesn't need to. He said it. He's
No.
like, I don't need the bat. It's
I'm hoping the
AL
Giants,
Player of the Week, Aaron Judge.
I'm hoping the Giants bats get a little girthier here, because I think, like, to me, like, people saying cheating and all that stuff, but there's no specifications for how long the barrel can be, just how thick it can be. And people are trying to spin it as like a negative, but it's adapting. That's what sports should be, is adapting. And if they found out that who was the player that led to it, I'm forgetting his name. It's Volpe.
Jazz Chisholm. Oh, Volpe and
Jazz
Jazz Chisholm.
Oh, it's yeah. Whoever it was well, he has issues getting jammed. So what if we just make that part of the bat a little thick? Like that's so smart. It's almost, dare I say, oh, get up. I missed it. Dare I say it's the tush push of sports. It's a team figured out something that they can do, and it's better. And so to me, I think the girthy bat should stay, because there's no rule being broken. They just made the barrels a little longer. It's not like they're using a Nerf bat where the barrels are thick. It's just, it's a little longer. And that to me is just, I think it's genius by the Yankees.
And if you think it's a problem, then make sure you yell at every other team that's using it. Like I just said, Ellie De La Cruz just hit a 418-foot home run using it.
I think
make
the
sure
Twins
you yell at him.
One too.
Yeah, the Twins. The Twins. You know, and you know what? I hope the Boston Red Sox don't watch this, because maybe they should give it to that scrub Rafael Devers. Hi-oh, 19 strikeouts.
I know you're a Yankee fan, so I feel bad for Devers. I don't. He is doing the hardest quiet quitting I've ever seen, because he said, I don't want to be a DH.
I don't want to be a DH. Base. Oh, well.
And this, and like, the Red Sox deserve this. I like, he has been a player for your franchise for you're so happy about it. And that's sports. I love that you're happy about it. But to me, it's just,
I don't care. Fuck the Red Sox.
I just don't understand how you do that to a player who's been there. I think he might be the longest tenured Red Sox at this point. And they're like, nah, you're just going to be DH now.
Look at it like this. This is what makes this double sweet. I hate Alex Bregman too. Yeah. Okay. So you bring him in to make Devers worse. Yep. And then Bregman is like, oh, I'm going to get better hitting in the clutch as well too, because he's not hitting either. This is like my fucking Super Bowl right now.
Yeah.
And as a Yankee fan, I think you guys would understand this. Whatever team you like, there's always that one team that you wish nothing but bad things and pray for their downfall, right? I don't care about the New York Mets. They don't bother me. I fucking despise the Boston Red Sox, and I will until the day I die. The same way that as a 49ers fan, I hate the Dallas Cowboys. I hate them. I hope they lose every single game, and I will laugh at all of their misery. So, ha, Boston, that's what you get for pushing away Rafael Devers. And good news, Rafael Devers, there's no Garrett Cole for you to get right against this year either, because he's not pitching this year. This man might not get a hit the entire season. I'm sitting here and I am loving every minute of this, because he looks like Keanu Reeves being sad in the dugout. I'm so happy right now. I am reveling in a person's downfall.
I think I saw a stat that dating back to last season, Devers has the most strikeouts in a 9-game stretch, which is just insane. So, but yeah, there's your baseball talk, Jason. We got to talk about the Yankees. We got to talk about the Giants. I'm happy baseball's back, man. Baseball is so fun. I'm watching. I have the Giants. They're playing the Astros. What?
It's a good distraction.
Yeah, it's a very good distraction from everything going on in the Niners. I got the Giants playing the Astros up on my side screen here, so probably gonna watch that. Let's go Giants. You see, Astros wearing their new City Connects, which look real nice, actually. So, but Jason, that'll do it for this episode. It was a great episode. Next week, when we're back, probably more draft heavy, because tomorrow is April, and Niners have made you very well aware that tomorrow's April. The draft is about 3 weeks away. A month away right now, 4 weeks right now, but 3 weeks in a couple of days. So next week we'll be heavier into the draft, getting more and more excited about that. But Jason Aponte, as always.
Let's go Niners. Like this video as well too, guys.
We love for you to like this video, and those Yankee bats, real girthy.
Welcome, everybody.
We are live.
My name is Jason Aponte.
I am Andrew Pasquini.
We're working. That's it. We're working over here. That's it. Let's go Niners.
Let's go Niners.